We're live.
Okay, what's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to the LogiCast, the Logical Gamers podcast. I'm here with Blanka Kong, Gunna Eos, Otto Wolf, and yours truly, Esoteric. And today is going to be a special podcast. It's going to be our Christmas special, and the topic of discussion is our Christmas experiences in gaming. So pretty much, how we brought in the Christmas spirit and what we did pertaining to Christmas for certain memories that we hold. Um, so I guess I will start it off. So one of the let's see, Christmas memories. One of the ones that I would have to say would be around the time when the Nintendo Wii was launching. I believe it was back in November. Not too familiar with the year. And as you guys already knew, the Nintendo Wii was really hard to find. Like it was super scarce. Um, so I went around looking for it, could not find it anywhere. Like it was sold out in all stores, very difficult to find. So one day, um, I went to this store, and you guys, since you know me personally, back then I was wearing the Looney Tunes jackets, the Lot 29 that you guys all make fun of. um, I decided to pretty much buy another jacket around November, so to speak. So I purchased the jacket, and within the receipt there was a raffle. Um, so I pretty much was like, I don't think I'm going to win this or whatever, but I'll hold on to the receipt because the raffle took place around like mid-December. Um, So I still had the receipt. I had time to go back to the store. Um, and one of my good friends, KG, accompanied me during that time, and we went back to the store. So as we was waiting, they made the announcements. They announced a couple of receipts. So I figured, okay, well, we're not gonna win because they didn't call my receipt. But none of those people who had those receipts were in attendance. Um, So, luckily for me, they got around to my ticket and I actually won a Nintendo Wii. Um, I was super lucky. I was not expecting it. It was one of the best gifts ever because it was free. Um, and pretty much I didn't have to pay for one. So it was amazing. That would sum up my first story. I have a couple more, but I'm going to pass it on to you, Kong, to tell your story.
I totally forgot that you won a Nintendo Wii uh, during its launch, considering people were killing each other for that thing. So,
Quite literally.
Yeah, unfortunate as well. It's sad, but yeah.
well, that's just American consumerism at work. But anyway, not to make it political, but goes to show you that's your luck, man. You need to play that lotto ticket already and uh, win all that money. But anyway, my first Christmas memory. Well, I have a lot, right? But one that sticks out to me would be Christmas 1998. This was the Christmas that I got my first system that I can truly say was my first one that belonged to me 110%. And that was the year I got the PlayStation 1 for the first time. And I got Crash Bandicoot 3 with it as well, and a few demo discs, which was like gold at the time because it felt like I got multiple games. Having access to these short, like 20-minute demos. Um, I didn't expect it. I mean, I grew up in poverty, so having access to, at the time, like air quotes, advanced technology was not even fathomable to me. Like, I remember on a school trip, we went to the PlayStation or the Sony store or the Sony building, whatever it's called. It's still around in New York, but it's not the same. And I remember seeing the PlayStation for the first time and seeing all the displays and seeing the graphics and being fucking blown away because up until that point I was only used to 2D graphics, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and to see 3D games was just like, what the hell am I looking at right now? I couldn't even believe it. Like I just stunned, right? It's like if today I saw a person flying, without any technological assistance. Like that was, 8-year-old or 9-year-old me looking at the PlayStation 1 in action. And so, of course, ever since I saw it, I fell in love with it. I was like, oh, I just want it so bad. And my mother made a lot of sacrifices to make it happen. Um, I even know the store she went to buy it. She bought it at Game Express in Brooklyn, Nevin Street. I don't think it's there anymore, but that's the store that it came from. Um, and I remember just being super amped the night before, just waiting to get my hands on it. And of course, I played it at this point in time. I've played it. I've had experiences with it, but I didn't have it. I didn't own it. I didn't have a long session with it at all. I just got to play it like Circuit City and Toys R Us, and my cousins had it, and of course they rubbed it in my face. Whenever I got to play it or whatever, I would play for maybe 30 minutes, and they would just take it away from me. Like, all right, you're done. We're gonna play now, and it's like, okay, cool. I guess I'll just stand here and watch you play. But when I finally got it that Christmas Eve, because my mother allowed me and my brother to open our presents Christmas Eve at midnight, which was technically Christmas. Man, I was just, I can't describe to you how happy I was to finally have one and say that, yeah, this is mine. Like, I don't have to worry about my cousins or my older, like, family members, like my aunt, kicking me off the system because she wants to play. And I have to, that whole hierarchy of age, like the older person just kind of gets to
Yeah.
call the shots in the family. um I didn't have to worry about that. Granted, I was limited on how long I could play. Like at the time growing up, I was only allowed to play on the weekends for 2 hours each day. So I would get 4 hours if I was lucky, 6 hours if Sunday counted, maximum to play my game. So like it was a big deal. And I cleaned that PlayStation every week. I kept it pristine. I kept my games in the best condition I could. I treasured that thing, and unfortunately, I don't have it anymore. It's one of the things that I regret, and it's not that the PlayStation 1 is a valuable machine or anything like that. It's just the sentimental value that I had for it. Unfortunately, I gave it to another set of cousins because they didn't have anything, and at the time I had the PlayStation 2, and PS2 was backwards compatible, so I figured, well, I can just gift you guys the PS1, and I have the PS2, so I can still play my games, because I felt bad they didn't have anything at all, and I know how that felt, so I was like, well, let me give it to them, and come to find out, maybe, I don't know, a few months later, that they traded it for a disposable camera
Oh shit.
to like a neighbor or
Wow, that's
something like that,
crazy.
and that broke my heart. Like I was like, oh. Like to them it was just it was a toy. To me it was like a treasure, a childhood treasure that I wanted to share with others that wasn't as fortunate, and they were family, so for me it wasn't like a big deal. It's just what you do, and if I never did that, I would have still had it today for sure, 100%. Um, but yeah, that I mean, it's kind of a bummer story, but I wanted to give you the whole PS1 story, and that's the story of like my PS1. Um, who knows where it is? It's probably sitting in some landfill somewhere.
Be funny if it's in a retro store for like 300 bucks.
It might be sitting in a retro store, refurbished, and I'll never know. Right? It's
Yeah.
impossible. Um, but yeah, but I can, even though the end of that PlayStation's life, at least with me, ended in a bummer. I can say that like the 3 or 4 years that I had it, I mean, I treasured that thing. It was in, I mean, pristine condition until the last day that I had it. I even when I had the PS2, I still, that was my that was my first console. So it meant a lot to me. And because I didn't have access to a lot of things at the time, the little bit that you did get, you valued very highly. So
Yeah, you took
Completely
care of it.
understandable. I
yeah,
mean, completely understandable. I have a similar story for last, but I'll wait
yeah,
for
I'm
you
I'm
guys.
pretty much done. So yeah, I got the PS1 and Crash Bandicoot Warped for Christmas, and I treasured
Nice.
it greatly. I beat that game. I don't know how many times, easily well over, like, I'm not even exaggerating, like 50 times. Like, I played the shit out of that game because it was my only game for like a whole year. And I didn't have a memory card either, so I had to beat it
Yep.
like 50 times. I didn't get a memory card until maybe, I don't know, the following spring or something like that. So it was just playing through the levels over and over again. And yeah, so that was Christmas 1998 for me. One of the best Christmas years I've ever had. Passing it to Drew.
Yeah. Yeah. So mine is in a similar vein. It's a gift for Christmas. Mine was the Game Boy Color. That was one of my first systems that, same vein as Kong, was mine. For a while, I had to borrow any system my father had because he was the only one who had games in the house. He had the original Game Boy,
Mm.
Super SNES, and then a Genesis, Sega Genesis. And I had to borrow it. And when he wanted to play, that was it. I left and I had to watch. So same deal. So when I got the Game Boy Color, that was my first system. And back then, portability was pretty much new. It's not like cell phones now and Nintendo Switch and the 3DSs, where portability is kind of the norm. This is back when portability was far and few in between, super rare. So the fact that I could go to school with it, even though I wasn't allowed to go to school with it, but we could take trips on the train with my parents, and I can play something on the train instead of just staring out the window into the dark tunnel while we're underground. Like that was amazing to me. Um, and my father lent me or gave me his link to Link to the Past. He gave that to me. That's why I still have that game today. And I love that thing. Like I played it nonstop. I went to the bathroom, I played it. We going on a trip, I'm playing it. It's in my little book bag where we're going into the city. I love that thing. Now, where it gets a little sad is one day my father took me to for those who live in the city or know New York, there's a big convention center, Jacob Javits Center, and they have a lot of conventions there. For whatever reason, we went to the yacht convention. I don't know why. We weren't planning on buying a yacht. I guess it was just something to do. The boat show, I think they call it. So we went there to look at boats we can't afford and we have no need for. And I was playing my Game Boy Color on the bus as I'm doing, and my father tells me time to get off. I get off, and I think I put my Game Boy in my pocket or my bag. Lo and behold, it did not go all the way into the pocket, went into the seat or on the seat. And I didn't know. So I get off the bus goes on its merry way, and I'm like, where the fuck is my Game Boy? Not exactly like that, but the energy was still there. And I left it on the bus. And
Yeah.
bus in a major city, that shit is gone. That shit was probably gone before the moment we got off the bus and someone noticed it. So it was gone. There was no way we were getting it. So that hit me. That made me sad. I cried. Because that was my baby. It was like a teal. What was it? It was the teal
Vomit
blue.
purple. Oh,
No, it was the
Oh,
blue
dude, I
one.
had the same one.
Yeah,
Oh,
right. It was the blue one because blue is my favorite color, and I was freaking out. And yeah, I had for me, my little world ended at that day. Luckily, luckily, my parents, came together and they were able to somehow find, because this is when the Game Boy was new and like most of these systems was fucking hard to find. They managed to find another one, and I was able to get it back, and that had like super I treated that as like the Bible. Some people treat the Bible. Like I didn't take it out anymore. I had watched it. If I did take it out, it was like, is this in the book bag? yes, okay, we can move now. So I treated that like with great reverence after I lost it the first time. And that's why to this day I still have it. And thank goodness the link between not Link Between Worlds, Link to the Past was not in the system that day because I would have been extra devastated if I lost that game. 'Cause that game means a lot to me. So yeah, got a Game Boy on Christmas. I think it lasted about a couple weeks till we went to that boat show. Lost it, but luckily got it back. So yeah, much like the PlayStation, much like Kong's PlayStation, I sometimes wonder where that thing ended up in the grand scheme of things. But you know, funny Christmas memory that ended in tragedy and had a redemption arc towards the end. But yeah, that's my my Christmas story. What you got for us, Wolf?
Not that depressing.
Nah.
So this goes back to 1998, much like Kong's experience, except it was the year that pretty much I'm gonna say my favorite franchise of all video games came out
Oh
in
man,
September,
that's my
which was
story.
Pokemon Red and Blue. So Pokemon came out in September 1998 when I did my research. We
Yes.
got it for the Christmas. Now, much like most of us here, my parent wasn't exactly lucrative in funds, lucrative in money. So I, now being a parent myself, understands the struggle she went through to probably even find the game, seeing as Pokemon was introduced into the West with its anime blowing up with its cards, now the video game. Um, so I remember I overslept Christmas morning because I was too excited to sleep the night before. I didn't know I'd get the gift, but at 10 years old, Christmas is exciting to you regardless. You don't
Mm.
have any school. You get to play, if you had games already, you get to play all the games you wanted. That was her rule because it was a holiday. Um,
So lucky you.
only on holidays. Like if I had, like, you remember how we used to get those 2 weeks off for Christmas?
Mhm.
Only on Christmas Day did I have unlimited time to play the game.
Oh
The
my
day after
god.
Christmas, I'd compromise and I'd have to read books, or I'd have to play the game an unlimited amount of time. Much like Kong went through for his parent. Um, so anyways, I overslept. My brother woke up at like 6 a.m. in the morning. Um, I would be the one to get up and wake him up. This time the roles reversed. And all of a sudden I just feel like a 6-year old head ramming into the side of me while I'm laying on my bed. And all I hear is, wake up, wake up, wake up. Look what I got, look what I got, look what I got. And he's showing me Pokemon Blue version. And at 10 years old, my eyes was really bad. I could hardly see anything. So I had to wear these really thick glasses. And trust and believe that I think God sent an angel down to give me 20/20 vision to navigate myself out of my room, through the hall, into the living room where the tree was, and directly to the size of what I would think is a Game Boy game box size. Opening it would be Pokemon Red version. And not only is that a special moment for me in multiple ways, in the terms of it opening the doors to probably my favorite franchise in all of the video games I've ever played, even till this day. But it's also a good topic to talk about now that, BDSP just recently released Arceus is next month. Um, so it's a good time to even tell that story now. But even more so, it exemplified what we meant to my mom as her kids. Because I wasn't going to wait till Christmas to get Red version. So the day or the week that I found out that it was released into stores and Toys R Us, I went to my grandmother and I asked. My grandmother would have done anything for me. She gave me the money on the spot. Problem was, we couldn't find the game everywhere. Every Toys R Us, every video game store was all sold out.
Yeah.
through all the month of September, October, and November. So I honestly, till this day, still don't know how she got those two games, both red and blue, in time for Christmas. I really don't know. I never asked. I'll just put it on her list of magical powers that she may have as a mom. Um, but mm, it just exemplifies what I feel like I owe my own kids to, go above and beyond to make them happy because my mother went above and beyond to make me happy. So Pokemon Red version will always, I may not have the game anymore because Game Boy games had a very nasty knack of after a few years of just dying and not working anymore. Um, it still is a memory that I hold dear to me because of just introducing the Pokemon franchise to me in a different experience other than the cards or the anime, and even more so what my mom went through to get it for us. I can only imagine now. So that's my
Yeah.
that's my story.
Isn't that something though? Like when you're a kid, you don't know the concepts of like economy and things being sold out and supply and demand. You don't have any concept of that. You just know I want thing. I know I go to store to get thing. Well,
Yeah.
store
Yeah,
doesn't have thing. What do I do? And then you marvel at your parents or your parent, and you go, how do you get that? Like you can't get it anywhere. Where do you get it? Like
What
you
happened?
just
I'm
don't
recording right
understand
now.
the concepts of how like the material world works. So they just seem really magical to you. It's like,
Yeah.
wow,
yes.
you must have some connections with somebody
Oh, okay, I can
because
still
this
charge
thing
it. Were
doesn't
you able to
exist
charge
and you
it?
found not one or two of them.
Okay,
So
cool.
I
Yeah.
like,
All right.
yeah,
All
I
right,
think we
cool.
all had that a little bit with parents, just finding these things that our little child brain thinks is impossible to find. And now that we're adults and some of us have families, we know it's like it's not because it's magic. It's because daddy and mommy fucking drive
And
40
out.
miles outside of
Yeah.
home to get this thing for you. But no, it's a little interesting thing I noticed between everybody's initial story.
Before I make a Before I pass it on to Esoteric again, I'll make a point to that. Gunner, in August of this year, me and my wife we were in a Walmart and we was just walking around because that's what she likes to do in Walmart to see what she can spend money on. And we passed the game section in Walmart, and in the case, I see a Nintendo Switch.
Mm.
And she goes, "Oh, the little one wanted a Nintendo Switch for his birthday, he asked." And I said, "Buy it now." And she's like, "But it's like 4 or 5 months away from his birthday. Why would I buy it now?" I'm like, "Hun, buy it now." We went back and forth. I'm like, "If you buy it now, I promise you, you will not regret it. Buy it now." So okay, so we bought it. Now we have a friend who also has a kid that's a little older, but their birthday is around this time, and they cannot find a Nintendo Switch, whether it's a light or a console, anywhere in any GameStop, in any Walmart, in any Target. And when she told me the story, I put my fork down in my plate and I looked at her, told you so, and I went back to eating.
Yeah,
It's like
because
it's
yeah,
crazy.
but to
It's
the
just
kids, they're just like, oh my god, my mom and dad are like fucking wizards because they
wizard.
got this out of nowhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
it's
Es-
pretty
es-
nuts.
Especially considering that, nowadays they're more subject to technology. So it's like if it was harder back then to find shit, it's even harder
There was
now.
no Amazon, there was no
Yeah.
eBay, there was no, Facebook Marketplace. There was none of that. It was literally
Nope.
circulars and
Yep.
getting your ass to a store.
Yep. It was
Yep.
huff it and book it. That's pretty much what it was essentially back then. Um,
But Esoteric, your turn.
Well, I mean, I was saving that same one for last because you guys came with the, sentiment. You guys, Wolf came with the freaking Pokemon game. And I guess you, your mom and my mom were tussling back in the days because, the story that I'm going to share, this was going to be my last one. But I'm going to make it my second since you brought up Pokemon, was in the
Mhm.
same similar experience. So, back then, in 98, I believe. It was Pokemon. It was out. That was the thing. And long story short, had a similar experience as yours. My mother ended up getting me one for Christmas along with a Game Boy Color. So it's kind of how you and Gunner kind of combined those stories. I had the same experience. Um and with my mother getting me Pokemon, which I loved the show, I loved, the cards, all of that. It really showed how much she paid attention to me because here's why. It was me and my two brothers. We all had Game Boy Colors. Both of them had the solid purple Pokemon, not I'm sorry, Game Boy Color, along with Pokemon Blue. And I was the only one that had the atomic purple with Pokemon Red. So she really knew how much I liked, Charizard, how much I liked, the Pokemon itself or whatever. I don't even remember even showing her that that's what I wanted. So it just kind of shows how much my mom paid attention to her kids. Um Also, fun fact, like the following day, I guess I was still hype off of, just having the Game Boy Color, and the Pokemon that I caught a really bad asthma attack to the
Oh
point
wow.
where, yeah, to the point where I like turned blue. Like they had to resuscitate me. I had really bad asthma back then.
Oh,
Um, and I don't know if it was just a coincidence or the fact that I was really excited about having the game and waking up and, just playing
Inadvertently
it.
hyper fucking I don't know, hyperventilating oneself.
Probably, like, I don't know what it was, but, you know, even with that, going to the ambulance, being admitted, she made sure to have, the Game Boy Color with me. Um, so it ended in a somewhat bad experience, but overall, that's one of the reasons why I appreciate the Pokemon franchise, why I also love the Pokemon franchise, why partially, I collect the Pokemon games. Um, is because of, her and doing whatever she did to acquire both the Game Boy Color and the Pokemon. Because back then, my older brother, he had the regular Game Boy, but she decided to give us our own. So I greatly appreciate her that for that. Um, yeah, and you guys really like hit the nail on the head. Like, growing up now and realizing what they had to go through back then, and as you said, Gunnar, with like how the economy was and not understanding how your parents are limited on income and funds and you know have buying necessities and shit like that, like you really appreciate it more now that you're grown. So I'm really upset that I don't have the Game Boy Color anymore, nor the Pokemon Red, but at least I have those memories to, remember and cherish. So yeah, I'm gonna pass it on back to you, Kong.
well, this isn't a Christmas story, but because it's related to Pokemon, I'll quickly tell it and then go into the next Christmas
Hmm.
story because my next Christmas story is pretty short. Um, so when Pokemon first came out, of course I was a fan and still am to this very day. I heard rumors that there was a game for it, but I didn't know for sure. Like I had no idea. This was during the time,
Information pipeline back then.
so
Yeah.
like you know, it was an event when I got to go to a store that carried games, let alone knowing that like when games came out or when games were coming out. I had no fucking clue.
Yeah.
So I didn't get that for Christmas, and even if I had known, I think I still would have wanted the PlayStation over the Game Boy. Um, because at the time I already had a Game Boy. I had a Game Boy Pocket, which I think was my birthday in '97 or '96. So for me, it was just like, well, I could just. I already got a Game Boy. Why would I want another Game Boy? I want a PlayStation. Anyway, my brother, my younger brother, his birthday's in January, so he ended up getting a Game Boy Color and Pokemon Red for his birthday. And I think our grandmother is the one who got it for him. And I was like, holy shit, there's a fucking Pokemon game? And he was, of course, he's a Pokemon fan too. Even to this day, he still plays the games casually, but he still plays them. And I remember like negotiating with him to borrow the game, and I had to like kiss up to him a little bit because I couldn't. It was his game, not mine. And like parlaying my PlayStation time to get time with his red version. I was like, okay, well, we get 2 hours on Saturday. I'll let you play the full 2 hours by yourself. Whatever game you want to play, you just let me play red version. So I remember doing that, and that was a funny time to go back and like, wow, that was so weird. Like, I don't know, but Pokemon was, man, I can't even like describe to you how big that was for me as well, and I didn't even know it existed. Like, I didn't even believe it was real.
I'm just thinking about the rumored Pokemon game. It's like now I just go on any number of websites. Like, oh, okay, this game comes out 3 years from now. I know, cool.
Well,
Yeah.
how I found out about games was that like my family, they were big on like purchasing newspapers, like specifically the Daily News. And every like Sunday, I believe they would have like circulars and coupons, and one of those circulars would be Toys R Us. So I would take that and I would see all the game section, and it'll tell you pretty much what the different games were, what was for sale, and so on. So that's how I kept up with like whatever video games was out at the time. Other than that, I wouldn't have known. Maybe commercials. I don't know if video game commercials was prominent like that back then,
They were
but
around, but
It was mostly for the console itself.
yeah, yeah, because I would see, the PlayStation commercial. Sega was big, Sega. So I would remember those, but specifically, I guess for the cartridges themselves, they would have the system right there, like listed on the circular, and then surrounding it would be like
Yeah.
the games associated with it. So that's how I found out about like the different games. I don't remember how I found out about Pokemon, but with other games, I knew that they were out because of that.
yeah,
I just
my
literally saw it in the store. That's it. I
yeah, like you just
literally
have to fucking find it. Like
yeah,
that's
we were downtown Brooklyn. We were shopping for like a Christmas gift, I think, for my sister, because at that time she was more into clothes because she's a teenager now, and my mom dragged me along, and we passed the Toys R Us that used to be downtown Brooklyn,
Yeah, right by
and
rest in peace.
Fulton.
yeah, and in a big ass banner from top of the window all the way down to the bottom of the window was a piece of Red Version's cover, I believe, if memory serves right, or maybe it was just a regular poster of Charizard, his box art for Red Version, and that's when I found out, okay, there is a Pokemon game. So that's when I asked her, acting like a clown on downtown Brooklyn, begging my mother to buy us one. I went home that same day. I told my brother, um, and eventually, watching commercials and going to school and having kids talk about, hearing other kids, more fortunate kids talk about it, you discover that the game is probably out there somewhere. So yeah,
Yeah,
rumored
so
rumored Pokemon games out in the wild.
yeah, the backyard, recess clicks and
Yeah,
kids talking about different, like that's how
those were the
that's where
days.
you got your information from back in the day.
Yeah, people make
Um,
some wild fucking stories
Oh,
about
yeah,
games that
Peekaboo.
don't exist. Yeah, okay, that's how all those weird glitches came out, or rumors about stuff in Pokemon and Zelda and games like just
yeah, the
kids
Mew in
making
the
up
truck.
bullshit.
Yep,
Hmm.
all
it's
that good
making up
stuff.
shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how I found out about Missing No and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it
So
was
yeah,
real, and
yeah.
that one was real.
Yep, they told me it would fuck up my Game Boy if I caught it. Crazy stuff.
So yeah, so Pokemon Red and Blue, of course, I think plays a. I mean, that was my only RPG that I ever played. I like my concept of RPGs didn't even uh, didn't exist. Like I didn't know. So I was like, oh man, you can like raise this creature and like it gets stronger. Like that whole concept was bizarre to me, but very intriguing. So that was interesting. But anyway, moving past Pokemon, Christmas 1999. Okay, so for those listening, got a little technical issue. So this this is take two. But anyway, moving past Pokemon because we got on like a Pokemon rant there. Um, my second Christmas story is from 1999, and it was a less fruitful year compared to 98 because it was just mostly games and software. But I got one of my favorite games, which is Resident Evil 3 on PlayStation 1, and my aunt got it for me. I think my mom, what did she buy me? I think she, no, maybe Mega Man Legends 1? Might have been Mega Man Legends 1, I'm not sure. But Resident Evil 3 is the one that stood out the most because I had very little experience with Resident Evil prior to playing 3 and owning it. And it scared the shit out of me. That game was very, you know, 10 or 11-year-old me was terrified of it, but intrigued at the same time. And my aunt was one of those people where she wouldn't necessarily pay attention to what we wanted or make a list. She would just go to like the Funko Land clerk or the Best Buy clerk and go, okay, what are the top, like, what are the hottest games right now for these consoles? And whatever they were, she would buy 2 copies of each or 3 copies of each, and then that would be Christmas, right? And then she would just kind of distribute them, willy nilly, like whatever, I think that he would like this. I think she would like this, and it was very, I guess random. So anyway, RNG gods blessed me with Resident Evil 3, and I was not complaining. I saw it and I was like, "What the fuck? This is a thing? There's 3 of them." So of course I was excited to play. I gave her a big hug and a kiss and zipped the fuck out of there and went went to play it right away.
Skip the formalities and just.
I mean, I was polite about it, but I was like, "All right, I'll see you later." They didn't care. I mean, they went back to their drinking and shit. So that's usually how it went down. So anyway, I'm playing the game by myself in a dark room. My other cousins are like in other rooms playing their games and or their toys or whatever. Everybody's kind of like in their own space. And I'm playing the game and I'm like, yo, this game is fucking insane. Like I couldn't like again, my mind was blown the year prior and it was blown again this year. And I was like, how can games get better than this? Like I'm in the city now, it's open world. To me that game was open world.
Yeah.
And I remember playing and encountering Nemesis and being like, "Oh, this is so cool!" Like he chases you everywhere. And I think I told the story before in like a Halloween episode or something, but I mean, it happened here, so I'm gonna tell it here. I was playing near a window where a fire escape was, and the part where Nemesis breaks through the window in the police station, once you beat all the puzzles in the police station and you're about to leave, he comes through the window with a rocket launcher. And as soon as he came through that window, there was like a shadow that passed me near the window where the fire escape was. It happened like at the same fucking time. So I jumped and I threw the controller down and I was like, oh, and that amplified the experience for me even more. And I took a break from Resident Evil 3 for the night.
Oh my god.
That's that real HDR.
Yep.
Right? So, yeah, 1999 Christmas. Again, not like the best Christmas, but it was a very good Christmas because I remember
Memorable
getting
one,
RE3.
Yeah.
My uncle, he got Tekken 3, so that was my first experience with Tekken. 3 specifically. I played Tekken 2 years prior in the arcade. I was like, this game is fucking sick. And then I saw the cover in his room because I went in to see what he had because he wanted to play Resident Evil 3. So I was like, okay, well, what do you have? And then we can maybe trade for the day. And he had Tekken 3. I was like, there's a Tekken 3? And then and then so I played that for the day too. And just that cluster of time, like 1990, I'm gonna say 1997 to like 2001, 2002. That cluster of time is very special to me in terms of not just like childhood, but also just gaming memories. Like, there's a lot of good shit in those 4 or 5 years of time, for me personally. So
No, that makes sense. I was gonna say that I think our experiences of what like our family has brought us, like our mothers, aunts, whatever, etc. I think that has an influence on what we play and like today.
Oh,
Like
100%.
certain games, like Resident Evil, Tekken, Pokemon, like, you know, if I feel like if I didn't have that experience with Pokemon back in those days, I probably would be a little more hesitant to play it now if I would,
Goes
just
to show you how important those years are for a kid's development.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
I would like
anyway,
to point out.
no, go
I would
ahead,
like to
brother. I'm
point out
done.
that how Blanka Kong was a negotiator growing up to play video games, but at the same time had no clue of what was going on in the video game market. So he would try to
There's a three of
negotiate.
this.
I mean,
But
that's
he
a
was
kid's
like a
incentive.
businessman that had no idea of what's going on in the actual business market. But you know what? Fuck it. He's swinging it. He's like, whatever I discover is whatever I discover.
Well, I think we probably all share similar stories. Like since we all have like, with the exception of Gunner, but he has like cousins, I would assume, like younger than him. I'm pretty sure us being older brothers have like finagled our younger brothers for shit and like
Mm-hmm.
family members like, hey, listen, if you do this,
You do
I'll do
this,
this for
I'll do
you.
this. But his stories is always some interesting negotiation story. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
I have to bargain my way into this situation.
Listen, man. Like I think we all grew up less fortunate. It's safe to say that at least.
Yep.
For me, it's like that's why I love Nuzlocke so much is because it's like the story of my fucking life. Like, here's what you got, make it fucking work. I tried to bargain with my mom one time. I tried to give her a Pokemon card to get more game time. Like, I tried everything. So, anyway, that's a story
That
for
is
another
cool.
podcast. It was a
Okay.
polymath, by the way. All right, go ahead, Drew. Sorry, Gunner. Go ahead.
I'm using my government name, man. They gonna dox me now. Anyway, um, okay, so this one it's another Christmas story, but it's not video game related, but it's in the same genre of, I guess, uh, anime game culture. So during the time, late 80s, I think 98 or 99, Japanese anime kind of blew up in the West or started making its way in a big way in the West. So things like Toonami on Cartoon Network, back when Cartoon Network was good,
Mm.
used to show anime, and that's how we all watched Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Gundams, fucking Inuyasha, Tenchi Muyo, all the old school Ghost in the Shell, all that stuff. So that time, anime was big, and my father was, for some reason, really big into anime. Like we would watch anime on the weekends back when Sci-Fi Channel, an old, well, not old, it's still kicking, but it's old. Doesn't do what it used to do. Used to show anime on the weekends, specifically Japanese anime on the weekends. Every other day during the week, it was Star Trek, Star Wars, and Doctor Who, and I guess Western sci-fi. But on the weekends, it was anime. So that's how I got to watch a bunch of like Akira, Vampire Hunter D, all like the old school animes. So because of him, I was really big into anime, or I got big into anime, and specifically Gundam Wing. Gundam
Mm,
Wing was one of the first Gundams that came to the West that
yes.
really put Gundam on the map for a lot of Westerners. So Gundam Wing was big at the time. I loved it, and they actually, this is again the first time they brought model kits over to the West. So for those that don't know, in Japan, there are, for a long time now, there have been a lot of Japanese model kits of Gundams, or Gunpla as they call it over there. Really wasn't a thing in the West, but this is when it started coming over. So my father, knowing that I liked Gundam Wing, saw it at a Toys R Us, I'm assuming, and for Christmas, that's one of the things I got for Christmas was a, what I didn't know at the time, but when I did my research later on in my life, found out was a high quality, because they come in different grades, a high quality Gundam Sandrock Gunpla from Toys R Us. And I
Perfect
remember that.
grade?
No, it was normal. It was fucking HQ, not a perfect
Okay.
grade. No.
Okay.
It was a HQ model. So we got it, and we father son bonding moment. We built it over the course of Christmas, and God was I fucking horrible. Like the Japanese were straight out of Japan. I mean the instructions were straight out of Japan, no English instructions. So we kind of had to like put that together on the fly. It's normal to me now, but back then it was like, what the fuck are we supposed to do? We put it together. I didn't know anything about the fine details of Gunpla, like panel lining and painting. It was the only thing I knew about building was Legos up to this point. So I figured it was just it's a Lego. No, completely different beast. So we put it together. We get it working. It kind of looks like Sandrock, but this shit is fucking scuffed as hell. Like this thing is it looks like its mother beat it. Like it was rough looking, and I was a kid and I wanted to play with it. I didn't know that you don't really play with Gunpla. You display them. So it didn't last that long. But even if it didn't last that long, I just loved it because it was something that we did together on Christmas, and it was like, you know, this is this cool anime mecha thing that I was just starting to get into, and how it kind of like wraps itself up in conclusion is that now I'm older, I build these normally, and I'm way past high quality. I build like perfect grades and
Excuse
master
me.
grades. Yeah, I know. My dick is huge. Excuse me. Um, so, but I was like, you know what? I want to kind of like bring this Sandrock back. So I found a master grade Sandrock.
Nice.
I put it together. I like did all the stuff that I now with my advanced adult brain, panel lining and all that stuff and decal work. And I showed it to my father. I was like, remember back in like 99, 98 when you bought me like the crappy one and we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. And well, this is a master rank version of it. This is how it was supposed to look. And he was like, you know what? That looks a lot better than what we made. I'm like, yeah, it does. So, kind of Christmassy, good vibe, father son, full circle moment. We built a high grade model together. It did not come out well, and now, good couple years later, I show him a master grade version of it in all its glory.
Do you still have the original one?
No.
That would have been
It's
that would have been cool to keep to like
Yeah,
still
yeah.
nice
have.
keepsake.
No, I would love to display him, even if he's all like missing a leg and a head. I would love to display him next to my master grade Sandrock, just to be like, this is when I was building it at like 11, and this is when I'm in my 30s, and this is where we've come. But unfortunately, I
Oh,
tried
that's
looking for it,
unfortunate.
but yeah, it was probably in a toy pile that got thrown away years ago. But you know, cool
Yeah.
memory, and Gunpla's awesome. So
I,
that's
I didn't even know they had those out for that long because I didn't start seeing them till I was in high school. That's when I
yeah.
got which one did I get? I think it was Death Scythe, even though I wanted Wing Zero, but you know.
Yeah, and it's funny because Sandrock wasn't my favorite. It was Death Scythe because he was edgy, cool, black Gundam with the scythe. Anyway, um, but I loved it because it is like, oh my god, it's a thing, and you're right, they didn't really exist. But this is when like Japanese anime culture, like in the same vein as Pokemon, is around that same time frame.
Yeah.
Kind of hit big in the West. Like it was brand new. A lot of Westerners like, whoa, what the heck is this thing? Why? It's an electric rat. It's a giant robot. It's a guy with spiky hair that shoots beams out of his hand. What the hell is this? So it was kind of like
Mhm.
that thing, and a lot of Japanese like paraphernalia, like toys and plushies and gunpla. They just like send it to the West. It doesn't even matter what it is. Just send it over there. So for a brief
True.
period of time, there was like gunpla in a Toys R Us store, not far
Yes.
away from GI
That
Joes and Barbies.
well, I didn't know that those were the robot ones like that you build. There was one that they had pre-built too. I don't know if you've seen those before.
Oh,
Gonna
the funny thing is, in our private chat, I'll send you guys pictures. Yes, they had actual like, obviously ones that were meant to be played with,
yes.
and I have a couple of them still sealed in the box.
Oh wow.
That
Wow.
Yeah, that was the
Definitely not gonna win any awards in the what is it, the grading department, but no, they're still sealed, factory sealed.
nice.
That's pretty dope.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, so it's an anime Christmas story to spice it up from all the video games. So with that, I will pass it over to Mr. Hotto Wolf.
A Christmas story. So another one that I have is, to come to think of it, I really grew up on Nintendo. Um, was my very first. I got the Super Nintendo for Christmas, and she couldn't afford any video games with the console. But at the time when consoles used to be sold, like the Super Nintendo console I had was a special one that was sold with a baseball game.
Oh yes, I know the one I'm talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah.
I played the living because it was the only game I had, maybe 8 months.
Wait, you kind of
So,
muffling out, Wolf. You mind repeating that?
and so I bought when she bought me the Super Nintendo, she didn't buy any other games with the Super Nintendo. So the Super Nintendo came with a MLB game, a Major League Baseball game, and I played the hell out of it for like 8 months because I didn't have another game to play. But I appreciate the console even more so because my sister, who was older than me, she had the Sega Genesis, and at the and on the Sega Genesis, she had video games that I would have aspired to want to have on the Super Nintendo, with the exception of Sonic the Hedgehog, because it literally is made by Sega. I mean,
Well, also
um,
correct.
I wasn't wrong either way.
Yeah.
um, so I only had baseball from Christmas all the way up until my birthday. Then I got my next video game for it, which was Mario Kart.
Mm.
But even more so, I appreciated the Super Nintendo because it was my it was my very first console. I had experience with the Nintendo, and I've had experience with video game or other things like Joy-Con and so forth. But the Super Nintendo was mine, much like Blanka Kong appreciated his PlayStation because it was his. Um, I didn't have to share my Super Nintendo. I didn't have to ask for permission to play my Super Nintendo, not from my parent, but from my siblings or cousins. Um, it was just for me. So the baseball game may have been my only game to play, but I tell you, I learned baseball from playing that game for every chance that I got to play that game. Um, so yeah, it's that one is a little short. Most of my Christmas memories is really the appreciation of, just what little light we had, but at the most of what my parent did as best as she could. So yeah,
Right.
Super Nintendo actually I still have, and it
Ooh,
still works.
Nice. That's really good.
I
hold
still
on to
have
that
it.
bad
It still
boy.
works. Yep, I left it in care with my younger brother, who is a fanatic at taking care of his things. So I know it's in good hands, but it still works.
It's up for sale.
Definitely still
You
works.
selling it?
No, no, I'm good. But yeah, that's it for me. Esoteric, your turn.
Yeah, mine's is going to be a bit of a short one. This one would be, if I'm not mistaken, it would be Christmas of, I would say 96. I'm not sure when the Nintendo 64 came out, but that's what I essentially got. I had no idea I was getting a 64. When I opened it, it was under the tree. It was in a cardboard box. It wasn't even in the Nintendo 64 box. So, I guess my mom was trying to prank me because she's a huge prankster. She would, do crazy shit that would like annoy me because she likes to have fun like that, and I'm more of a reserved person at times. Um, of course, Wolf can attest to that too because he's witnessed it.
Yes.
Um,
Species. Something else.
Yeah, definitely something else. So it was under the tree. It was just a cardboard box, plain as like plain, brown, whatever. And she's like, "Here's your gift" or whatever. Um, and I'm guessing it was probably used, because again, didn't see the 64 box, like the display, because I knew what it looked like. Um, you know how systems are meticulously packaged and whatnot. This one wasn't. It just had the system. No bubble wrap, nothing. It was just in there, along with the controller, along with the cords all over the place or whatnot. Um, and I was a little bewildered because I'm like, is this really mine, or are you kind of like packaging up this system to make it seem like it's mine, but it's actually my older brother who is able to like acquire systems on his own, because he's significantly older than me and he was able to work during those times. So I was really like, as I was opening up the gift, I was like, "Hey, I don't know if this is mine. My mother's playing a trick on me or whatever." Um, I didn't believe her until she like kept saying, "Yes, this is your gift. This is your gift." So essentially, what she did was, she took everything out the box of the original and she just stuffed it in a cardboard box and gave it to me that way.
That
Um,
sounds like something she would do.
yeah, yeah. So I
Hmm.
was, I wasn't sure because, I mean, I wasn't the most like I didn't have an adult brain back then, but I could tell when something looked used and like it wasn't new, um, or it didn't seem new. So I was like, this can't be mine. She's playing around or whatever. Um, but yeah, after she told me and she convinced me that it was mine, I was super happy, super excited. Um, her game selection, I was a little like wow about, my mother didn't really kind of like omit me from R-rated things. Like when I was young, I used to always watch that. But her game selection was Duke Nukem 64, and
That's unfortunate. Oh,
I liked
not
Duke
because of the
Nukem.
violence. I was gonna say because Duke Nukem is ain't no doom. That's for sure.
no, it isn't a Doom. It wasn't, it's a shooter, but it was very like edgy, very like crazy. He cursed. You had to like use the bathroom to regain your health. You fought aliens. Some of them was taking a shit while you're shooting at them. Like the game was so crazy, and I'm like, wow, you
Yeah,
know.
side note: my most memorable enemy were the pigs in in police uniforms because little brain did not understand what they were trying to get at. I'm like, that's a
Yes,
weird thing to put an enemy in. Then when I
yes,
grew up, I was like, oh,
Now you get it.
yes. It all made sense.
I
You
see
know.
now.
Then you have the aliens flying around in jetpacks. What I remember vividly is the aliens sitting on toilets and you like just blasting them and having to use the bathroom. And one of his phrases was, I think it was, time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum. Like
Mm.
it was just so awesome. I was like, this is great.
No, that
Uh,
was cheesy as hell.
Yeah,
That's
there you
that's
go.
that's that's horrible. Like,
but back then they had a lot of like cheesy movies, cheesy
yeah, but
films, like
come on, kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of like really, really.
listen, I don't know about you, but Duke Nukem was the shit back then, and especially me as a kid playing a game that was meant for adults at that time, I was happy. Um,
I didn't have that exposure to Duke Nukem as being my own game. I had exposure with it being my older stepbrother's game at the time. He was my stepbrother.
mhm.
Um, game, and I saw him playing it. I was never interested in Duke Nukem as an individual, and even now, as an adult, I'm not interested in Duke Nukem. But regardless of it, wow, that's that's a
Yeah.
hell of a comment.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. I had a blast with it. And, circling back around, remember when I said that, my mother, didn't believe my mother got it for me? But she convinced me she did. In
Mm.
actuality, it was my sister who got that game, got Duke Nukem and the Nintendo 64. So, yeah, like the only system that my mother has ever gotten me was the Game Boy Color and Pokemon. So, so she pranked me anyway. It wasn't from her. It was from my sister who got me the
She pranked
Nintendo
and lied to
64.
you.
Huh?
Yeah, she pranked and lied to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
that
much.
lady is
Pretty
something else, I swear.
Get pranked,
yes.
nerd.
She is. Listen, she's a huge prankster. I know. I think Gunner and Kong got to meet her once.
I think like
Um,
once, twice.
yeah, once or twice. But yeah, if you guys were around more often, you would see the severity of her pranks.
The
Mhm.
severity.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a condition.
Yeah,
It's
don't want to digress from the conversation, but it goes as far as okay, she when she converses, she pranks people that way, but it goes up to the point where you're showering and she throws ice on you and shit like that. So just to give you a taste of her pranking range.
yeah.
You should have got
Oh,
her
I love
back and
that
just threw a
woman.
hot dog at her. Pretend it was something else. That's what I would have done. But that's...
Good times, good times.
Do you have any more?
I've got two more.
Go ahead.
Okay, so seeing that we're on this prank train, I'll tell this one. I don't remember the year. This might have been 95 or 94, probably 95. So my dad was still around at this point. Um, and this Christmas, it's definitely 95 because it was before I had Game Boy and any of that stuff. 94, 95, probably 95 because I remember being a big Spider-Man fan all of a sudden because of the cartoon.
Yeah.
The animated series. I was like, this fucking show is amazing. I love Spider-Man. And so I asked for a bunch of Spider-Man toys for Christmas. And me and my brother, more so me, less than him, snuck and saw the presents before Christmas. So I was like, oh my god, they got me Spider-Man toys. So I was super amped for that. And the Christmas morning, it was, well, Christmas night, Christmas Eve rather, the whole tree, I mean, was filled with fucking toys, like a ton of toys. My brother got like Hot Wheels because he was like really into cars and stuff and football, so he got like a I guess you would say a cosplay football helmet and a football and a little jersey or whatever, and he got like his little Hot Wheels. He was happy, and I got my Spider-Man toys and Venom toys and all that. But before that, me and my brother woke up Christmas morning. We were super amped, and we run to the living room, and there's no presents under the tree. And we're like,
Wow.
but there were presents here just last night. So we're knocking on our parents' door, knocking like, Mom, where's the presents? And then my father is like, go back to bed. Like he's just being a dick. It's too early. Go back to bed. There's no presents. And so I kept knocking and he kept screaming at me and I was getting sad. I started crying because I was like, I know there's presents. And he kept going for like an hour. He kept pretending like there were no presents. And then my little brother started crying and I was crying. And yeah, it was like, all right, fine. Here are the presents. And he locked them in the closet just to get us to cry and he prank us or whatever. I was like, that was the worst. Like, why would you do that? And he was just like
Straight
laughing
up
his
mean.
ass off. And I was like,
I
this
see where
is
Kong gets it from now.
yeah. So
That's true.
that's my prank Christmas story. That was funny. I'll never forget that. And I don't think if I ever have kids, I don't think I'll ever do that exactly like he did. I might do something like a iteration of that, but I think he took it too far for sure. And then I'll quickly tell the second one. This was I'm pretty sure this was the year 2000. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2000 because I didn't have a Game Boy Color. So I got the Game Boy Color with Donkey Kong Land on
Oh,
Game
the
Boy
yellow
Color.
cartridge. Oh yes. Yes.
No, I didn't get that one. I got the
Oh.
the see-through one. The one that said Game Boy
Okay.
Color
Okay.
on it. It was specifically upgraded for the Game Boy Color. So
Okay.
yeah, I got that for Christmas because I remember playing Donkey Kong on the N6 on the Super Nintendo, but I didn't have a Super Nintendo. I didn't have access to a Super Nintendo, and I was like, I love that game. There's got to be another way for me to play it. And then I was with my mom one day. We were in a store. Those like weird stores that like sold sneakers and sold games and sold other things and was a laundromat and was something else. Like those weird
Yeah.
stores with like 5 stores in it.
Yeah.
And I saw that there was a Donkey Kong game for Game Boy. I was like, oh shit! But it said Game Boy Color only. I was like, oh fuck! I got a Game Boy Pocket. I can't play this. And so she got me the teal Game Boy Color and Donkey Kong Country Color. Is it Donkey Kong Land or Country? I don't know. It was the one that said specifically for Game Boy Color for Christmas. And my
That probably
cousins.
was 3.
No,
Sorry to cut you off.
it was the first one. It was Donkey Kong Country 1, but made for Game Boy Color.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
trust me, it was Donkey Kong Country 1. I know. I didn't have to play with dumbass Baby Kong or whatever. It wasn't that one. So anyway, the funny part of the story was, my mother had the presents under the tree or whatever, and the tree happened to be in, like, basically her room / living room. It was all kind of like in the same vicinity. But I wanted to get my hands on it early. So me and my cousins and my brother were just like talking like, oh my God, I can't wait for Christmas. It's 6 hours away, blah, blah, blah. And I go, fuck it, I'm gonna go get it. And they're like, what do you mean you're gonna get it? And I'm like, I'm gonna get the presents. And they was like, get mine. I was like, no, you get your own shit. And then so because it was a high risk operation here. So I go, okay.
That's high risk.
Yeah, because fucking they'll take the presents away.
Of
So
course.
I start crawling. I was like, I saw this Metal Gear Solid. It'll work. And so I'm crawling, and I can't tell which is mine, because they're all fucking boxes. So I'm like, fuck. And so I start like ripping the wrapping on each box just to see if I can get like a little clue as to which present was mine, so I could just snag it and then go to my room and start playing. And I had this little like bullshit flashlight because we didn't have smartphones back in the day, people. There was no like, oh, I have a flashlight on my phone. So I had a real like miniature flashlight that I just had because that was a toy. Flashlights were toys back then when I was a kid. And so I had this like little flashlight, and then I had to put like a little blanket around it to kind of, so
Dim
the
the
light to thin the light so that I wouldn't wake her up. And she caught me. I made too much noise.
Damn.
And she was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. While I'm on the
Good
floor,
comeback.
arm prone with a flashlight and a blanket. And then my cousins were behind me, and my brother was like way behind me. And as soon as they heard I got caught, all you heard was like the little footsteps fucking run back to the room. I was like, oh, you bastards, you fucking left me for dead.
That's hilarious.
So then she was like, just open the presents, whatever. It was like 4 a.m. or something like that. I only had to wait like a few more hours. It wasn't that big of a deal. But she was already up and whatever. So they let me open the presents. And my cousin's got like a CD player, music, and NSYNC and Backstreet Boys or whatever. And I forget what my brother got. He got some games and some toys and stuff. So yeah, that was Christmas the year 2000.
Wow. It's just so funny how our perception of time changes from kids to adults. Like I'd be shocked if I even get a gift as an adult, but as a kid, when we got gifts early, 24 hours felt like a life sentence.
Yeah, it did.
2 hours felt like a life sentence. Couldn't wait.
Yep.
Yeah, my actual joy for Christmas this year is actually seeing the kids' reaction to what I got them. I don't expect to get a Christmas gift this year. If I do, it'd probably be my lady who, went the extra mile for me. But other than that, I don't see me getting a Christmas gift this year. But I'm more excited on seeing how the boys react to what I got now.
Yeah,
So
that's
Yeah, I
like
can see.
that
Yeah,
turns out.
yeah.
that's where your joy comes from now. From that.
Which is so sad.
It's not sad. I think that's just a
Like,
part of growing up because I had the same thing with
yeah,
my youngest brother who is 16 years younger than I. So like, while he's not my son, obviously, like there's that weird like, it's like a son, but he's my younger brother. And so
yeah,
when he was
You're
like a little kid, that's like for me, I didn't care. I didn't even want Christmas presents. I don't like people ask me now, like, "Oh, what do you want for Christmas?" I'm like, nothing, just money, I guess. Um, but like
mhm,
seeing like him back when he was younger, like a little kid, get toys or any games that I got him, and seeing his face light up was like the best present you can ever give me. Um, so I kind of understand it. I mean, I can't 100% relate because I don't have a child of my own, but like I can relate based on my personal experience with my youngest brother. So I kind of
yeah.
get it.
I
that's enough.
completely understand because it
Mhm,
it resonates with me. It's kind of like looking in the mirror or in a time machine, just seeing. Well, I can't see what my face expression was. I don't even think they had like cameras back then. They had cameras, but I don't think they had like camcorders back then or whatever.
They sure did,
During the
but
times of
that was a
me,
luxury item.
yeah, yeah. And again, we were like less than.
Yeah,
Um,
we never had a camcorder back then. You needed a camcorder to record
yeah,
things.
Hmm.
exactly, exactly.
We had
So
disposable Kodak fucking cameras, and that's how we captured the memories.
yep, one shot, one capture,
Yep.
and you couldn't
And it was
retake shit.
blind
You had to
too.
figure
You
it
you,
out.
Yeah,
you didn't know until you got them shits developed.
yeah. If you
Yeah,
close your eyes through them, tough shit. That's your Christmas
yep.
picture.
The DLC was going to Rite Aid and developing those pictures. You was SOL. You couldn't break through anything, so
Yep.
to speak. So, you know, to my point, well, actually to Kong's point, it it resonates, because although I don't have children myself, I do have like nieces, nephews, and godchildren who I do try to like get gifts for when I can, and
Hmm.
just to see their reaction with what they like and see how their eyes just open up wide. It kind of like you kind of look back and think to yourself, well, was that me back in the days? It kind of, I don't know. It brings me holiday spirit because I'm a Scrooge now. But when they open up their gifts, I'm kind of like it kind of opens up that light for me.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
no, it's funny because I'm the exact opposite thing. Only child. I don't really speak to my cousins anymore. I'm not gonna try to get too depressing, but so for me, the holidays and like that is just kind of spending it with immediate family, my parents, and maybe hopping on Discord with you guys and just fucking around on Unite or some shit. Um, but yeah, I could imagine how nowadays it's not really you getting the present. Now you've quite literally, for some of us, have become the parent, where it's the joy of seeing the children, their expressions and their eyes light up when they get
yeah,
something. And I imagine it's a good feeling to kind of like, hey, this is how I was, and now you get to be the magician that finds the mythical toy or game or whatever that they thought doesn't exist anymore. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Or the dark magician where you hide all the gifts, put it in your room, and
Depending on which kind you're working with. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm out of Christmas stories to tell. I don't know if anybody else wants to share one before we wrap up.
Uh, Not really. Like the only one, I guess, it's a Black Friday story, and Black Friday is such a nebulous term nowadays. Pretty much, I just wanted a one of the Zelda 3DSs. They had it on sale Black Friday. We stood online. I got it. We went home.
Mm.
That's it, folks. Riveting, I know.
bleep bleep bleep.
But yeah, no, that's about it for me.
Same. I can't think of any others.
yep. Same. Is that a? Oh, that's somebody picking up the stuff. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's it for me.
Okay, well, with that being said, for those who did listen, hope you enjoyed some of the stories and maybe got a chuckle out of our childhood Christmas stories.
Or you're like, what the fuck are these old people talking about?
Maybe you're listening and you're like,
With
just
the camcorder.
use your smartphone, stupid.
Yeah,
That
Amazon
wasn't
Prime, nerd.
that wasn't a thing back then. So yeah, let us know your Christmas stories at in the comment section. I'd love to read them. I know you probably hear that from other YouTubers, but we would actually read them. um, so leave those down below if you're inclined to. Like if you enjoyed it, dislike if you thought the stories were dumb, whatever. Subscribe. We do podcast episodes every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to be notified when those episodes go live, then subscribing is your best bet. We also stream on Twitch. I stream under Blanka Kong on Twitch. I don't have a set schedule. I kind of stream retro and indie games mostly. Just recently finished my Nuzlocke challenge for Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, which is a good time. And that was a collaboration stream with Esoteric. He also streams on Twitch, on Logical Gamers on Twitch, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to about 1 a.m. He also completed his Nuzlocke challenge, and recently he's been doing like shiny hunting and just completing the Pokedex. He also plays action adventure games on the PlayStation 5. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, definitely check him out there.
Speaking of hard to find things.
Yeah, right. Good luck getting those PS5 for Christmas.
Yeah, good Godspeed.
So, Esoteric, you want to tell the people where they can find us on the socials?
Sure. Before I do, guys, just want to let y'all know that we are all older than Google. But anyways, yes, you can find us
We
on.
are.
It is. It's the truth.
Yeah.
But you can find us on
Ouch.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Logical Gamers TV. Just look for the light bulb with the bow tie, one of the greatest icons ever. We're also on TikTok, same name, same emblem. So yeah.
All right, guys. Well, Merry Christmas and enjoy your time with your family. It's not about the presents, but it's about the experience. The presents help too. So hopefully you get something cool. But the memories that you create are truly what the real presents are. I know that's super cheesy and cliche, but it's really true.
It's the truth. You get it. You
Yep.
realize it when you get older.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
all right, guys. Merry Christmas. Have a good night. We'll see you in the next one.
Right. Take care.
Later.
Bye.